Hello everyone, welcome back. As you can see, it is absolutely pissing it down and it will probably continue for another week. So we don't have a lot of things to show you in terms of work that we've done because we just could not get to doing any more outside work. That's why in this week's video we will be talking you through some of our plans, mostly for the kitchen, but we've also been working on the electrical plan and some other thoughts about the things that we want to improve after the windows have been installed, which we hope will be at the end of March or early April. So let's dive into that.
So, what is your feedback on cooking on a single hob by the most beautiful light imaginable?
It's, well, if anything, it's an improvement to our previous induction hob that we had in our rental apartment. So if anything, this very cheap IKEA thing is working wonders and pulling a lot of weight. But having just one single hob is not what my dream kitchen looks like, unfortunately.
We also cannot run a second high wattage appliance at the same time because our current electric setup does not accommodate that. That means a second or a bigger induction hob is also not an option. And yes, we do sometimes forget that.
We do have, however, another item that is pulling a lot of weight, which is our double drawer air fryer. So if it's not going in on the hob, it is going in the air fryer, and that's how we are surviving. I say surviving, but look at this. This is becoming a very healthy meal for today after a weekend of beer festival and snacks. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yeah, and I can confirm that, you know, having the single hob, especially when you want to make some rice or pasta, not being able to have a second pan going is a little bit awkward. You can work around it, but it's far from ideal.
Yeah, today's workaround is going to be a one-pot meal. So the rice, once this is all kind of going, the rice is just going to go into the pan as well, and then we'll see if it actually tastes of anything. I've just done some random stuff, and as Renee would say, when I start throwing in random stuff, most of the time it does work, but don't then ask me for the recipe because it will just, I don't know.
And also, don't ask her to follow a recipe because that generally doesn't work.
No.
You can also tell that the lack of space is not helping. The amount of things we have and the lack of space we have for them doesn't help. The spices being stored in a small box, which then lives underneath the hob in the makeshift table, well, camping table. It doesn't give you a lot of space to work with right by your pan, and then this area is also not that big, and then it just stops. So you can really tell why we would want to extend the kitchen to go into that corner. It'll give us so much more storage and workspace. In particular, storage space at the moment is a bit of an issue, given most of these cabinets are completely unusable. And I don't think I'm going to show you the inside because you'll never come back again. Another terrible thing about this kitchen at the moment is that it's super low. So the counter is already very low, and then having the sink, it just means that you're basically hunched over like this to try and do the dishes. So for now we're using a dishwashing thingy, whatever it's called, and then put it in a bigger one because it splashes all over the place as well. Can't wait to have a higher countertop and have a dishwasher. Missed it for about 2 years now.
I don't know what you're complaining about. I've got a dishwasher. Well, that's the deal we've got. I make the food, you clean it up. And this is the kitchen that we are going to replace all of this with. As you can see, we have gone for an IKEA kitchen, and we are not going to be building a kitchen completely from scratch, doing all the stone or timber or a combination of those. So if you were hoping for this, I'm sorry to disappoint you. An IKEA kitchen fits our project just fine for various reasons, both from a budget perspective, a time perspective, flexibility perspective, but also it fits the modern feel that we are going with for the majority of the house. Now, this design is the result of a lot of learnings from living in homes with kitchens, and also from designing our own kitchen in the previous home that we owned back in the UK. And we've incorporated all of that alongside kind of our experience of living in this home now. And this is the end result. So as you can see, we've gone for a very long like workspace along the two main sides of the house, although it's got a few corners. And we know that we use a lot of space, so just for working and cutting and things like that, but also we want to have some of our appliances at hand at all times, obviously our kettle and our toaster, and we don't want to be moving them around whenever we get some other appliance like the instant pot or the air fryer out. So we want to have as much space available to us at any time without having to move stuff around. Another thing that we have taken from our previous design is that we love drawers. So every unit that could technically be a drawer, because some units can't be, like corner units, for example, they have to be just normal doors with shelves. But every other unit we have gone with drawers. It makes it so much easier to reach things, especially when you think around things like storing, pantry. There's no excuse to just leave things in the back and then buy a new one because you couldn't be asked to search all the way through. So it's really practical, and it's something that we really enjoyed about our previous kitchen, and that we really missed in the kitchen that we had in our rental space. Another learning that made it into this kitchen is that we have gone for a dark worktop. So this is going to be a grey, dark grey quartz worktop. In our previous home, we had a white quartz worktop. And while it looked absolutely gorgeous, it also was really prone to, well, getting dirty, but also things like tins, they left scratches, and then you had to get like a specialist thing and you had to scrub it. So we are going for something a lot more maintenance free for this kitchen. The colour is something that we fell in love with as soon as we walked into the kitchen section of IKEA. I think in reality it is a bit lighter than it might look here. It also depend on, you know, what
type of day it is it sunny, is it not? But it works really well with white walls and the dark worktop that we've chosen. And for the floor, that won't be this kind of laminate effect or laminate proper. We are in fact going for these tiles. So while we want to go for like a mostly modern feel, we are going to combine it with some Portuguese traditional tiling to kind of merge the two cultures a bit, because we love a bit of fusion. It will have all the modern appliances, so double oven, induction hob, cooker hood, and a sink. We've gone with not that big a sink, first of all, because we will have a dishwasher. Well, Rene will also have a dishwasher. But also because any of the bigger food processing jobs of things from the land, like fruit and vegetables, we are planning to do downstairs in the workshop slash garage, where we are planning on setting up some like stainless steel worktops and sinks and things like that, so we can really make this a homely domestic kitchen where we can enjoy time alone or with friends, and leave all of that and all the sand and dirt downstairs, and only take up the processed foods for consumption. The room itself will remain, I think, rather spacious. So currently our table is already stood here, but a bit more to this side, because we've got the cabinets over here that are currently used as our kind of ad hoc storage space, because we don't have a lot of usable cabinets. So that will move a bit there, which will leave more than enough space to move about and to not be in each other's way, although we always find a way to do that for some reason. The door to the kitchen, by the way, we will remove that because it will not work really well with the freezer that we've got planned here. And it's a door that's always open anyway. The cat is moving freely about. Her litter box is through here. So we might as well take that door out and make it practicable for not just ourselves, but also for her. I think one other thing to mention is that we have not gone with any overhead cabinets. First of all, because we think we will have more than enough storage space, and there will be some extra storage space in the utility room probably as well. So we won't need it for that. And also we think it might make it look a bit more cramped than the kind of the feel that we are going for. We might install some shelves here and maybe here, but we will wait until we've got the kitchen in place, as you can see it here, and then live a bit in it and find what we would want to add and maybe modify to some extent. So yeah, we're not going to build our kitchen from scratch. We will be ordering the flat pack from IKEA, and we will be installing all of the base units and appliances and things ourselves. We've done it before, so we can do it again. It also gives us the flexibility to start whenever we are ready and not have to wait for any installation people to come, but also it takes away the fun of putting together your own kitchen, obviously. And yeah, and then apart from the worktop, because that is something that we can't do. A big quartz worktop, you simply can't, with all the cutouts and for the sink and the hob and fitting it all together. So that is probably the one thing that we'll have to outsource. So yeah, if you were hoping for a completely homemade, purpose-built kitchen, I'm sorry to disappoint, but hopefully you'll still enjoy watching us struggle putting all those cabinets together, because that's still not easy, I can tell you that. But if you are looking for some inspiration for bespoke homemade kitchens, please have a look at the guys from Smithstill Farm and Make Do Grow. I'll put some links in the description
and their channels, because they are doing or are going to do a lot of that designing and building themselves to fit their more kind of rustic and traditional kitchens. So yes, this is the kitchen. We can't wait to get started. We can't wait to have it, but we will have to be a bit patient, because there is a lot of groundwork that needs to happen before we can start.
Before we can start installing this dream kitchen, however, we need to have our electrical plan in order, and we can't just focus on the plan for the kitchen because, pun intended, it is all connected. We need to do the entire house as an electrical overhaul, and we've spent quite a few days in the last few weeks thinking about what we want. We've gone from analog on a piece of paper that, as you can see, I've been drawing out, walking through the house, taking measurements, drawing on the walls where we actually want the sockets to be, and then going from this to digital. So I'll talk you through the digital bit now and show you the plan that is going to be sent to our electrician that we have been lucky enough to find, so that he can cast his eye over it and we can work out how we can best combine our efforts, because we do want to do a lot of the groundwork ourselves, but there are things obviously that we would rather leave to the experts. So anything to do with the fuse box and the main power, we really are not going to touch that. And we also have to think around things like solar. So yeah, let's dive into what we've come up with so far. After all the walking around and drawing on the walls, which was a lot of fun, we went on to the next step and digitized the plan. Now, obviously, this is for ourselves as well, so we have got a really simple overview of what is going where. It's easier to drag some things around if we are not sure about the placement of some things, but also to give to the electrician, so he's got something tangible to have a look at and give us some pointers and point out some mistakes that we have probably made. And this is the result. And because I am a consultant, obviously it ended up in a PowerPoint presentation. The document itself is completely in Portuguese, also because we have to practice our Portuguese, and when we're talking or trying to talk to our electrician, it's nice to know all the terms of all the items and all the things that we are wanting to do, but also because our electrician does simply not speak English. So it would be very nice if he actually understands what we are planning to do, so he can give his informed opinion and the best pointers that we need. This overview that you see here is just of the living floor, and it's a simplified overview of all the items that we'll need. So we have got candeeiros, which are like lights, in this case mostly ceiling lights, tomadas, which are sockets, reguladores, which are switches, so for lights and things like that, and pontos de energia, which are power points, not to be confused with this PowerPoint, which are direct into the network, into the electricity network in the house for appliances that do not have sockets and things like that. So that will be the ovens and ventilators and things like that. From the drawings that have got the exact measurements from the wall and from the floor and things like that, we have made some simplified drawings. So this is highly simplified, but it does give everyone an idea of what we are planning to do and where things are roughly going to be. So this is a very simple room. This is the utility room, so with the entrance door from outside, and we'll only have a few sockets here, a ceiling light, and some switches to control this light and the one outside. But as you can see, if we get to the kitchen, it is getting a lot more complex with lots of switches, a few power points, more than one light. These lights will be one zone and this light will have a separate switch. So there is a lot to think about, which is nice then to have this all kind of in place to really think through and do another walkthrough to see if everything really fits. The living room, the sala de estar, is also one to really point out, because at the moment there are only 2 sockets in that room, not 2 double ones, 2 single ones. We've got one here and we've got one here, and in the end, when we're done with all of this, we will have 14 sockets in that room. So we are really planning on modernizing this house, and we have the philosophy that you can't have too many sockets in a house. It's rather they are unused than that you are finding yourself wanting for some power. So we've done this for all the rooms in the house, as well as the basement and the attic, but they will be a bit easier because we won't have to dig out any trenches, and they are lower down our priority list. But we did need to think about all of it and what we wanted to do, because, pun intended, it is all connected, and to get a good electrical plan, we need to know what we're going to demand of our electrical system and the size of the fuse box and things like that. So once we'd drawn out all those plans of all the rooms, we went into our project management planner, which we are making in the wonderful Notion. And as you can see, we've got like an electrics overhaul, it's got its own special project, and in there we have got the big electrics overview, which is a list of all those items that I've just mentioned. So every single light, every single switch, every single power point, it's all in there, and we know where they are, in which room, on what wall, what type of item it is, what type of switch, for example. So is it a hotel switch for a light that you want to switch on from 2 sides of the room, or is it a normal one? What switch is switching up on one light? Things like that. We've all got it in this plan. Alongside the max power in wattage of all the big items, especially the ones that are going into sockets. So for example, the kettle will know in which socket we are going to do that, and we have to make sure that it's not in a group with other high wattage appliances. So once we had all of this, we decided then in which group every item would go. So we've got all the lights are in one group. We've got made a division for some like sides of the house. The big appliances in the kitchen have their own groups even, and adding all of that up, we ended up with a total of 11 groups for just the house. And currently we have only 6 groups for the living floor for the house. So that's a big improvement already. And then we also have 3 additional groups, one for the water pump outside, one for the warehouse, and one for what we are going to turn in somewhat of a stay for family and friends. But that's all way down the road, but we have to plan for that so we can get the right fuse box. One other thing that you might notice is the IDs here. So every single item has got its own unique ID. So it starts with the first letter, like entrance, so that's an E, light, so that's an L, and then number 1 of that room. So the entrance light's only 1, so we've got EL1. And for T is for tomadas, for switches, etc, etc. And you can find all of those back in the plan as well. So you can see all the little codes in above all the above all the items, which will help us when we get to actually doing the work, labeling all the items, labeling all the cables to know where they're coming from, what they are going to do, etc., etc., just to not end up with a massive mess of cables and not knowing which is which. I could probably talk for many more minutes or even hours about what we're planning to do, but I'm going to leave it at this because I've been talking for far too long already. If you made it this far, thank you so much again for watching. If you've seen any things that you want to ask questions about, if you've seen things that you think we are doing wrong or should consider, please let us know in the comments so that we can consider them, answer them. We would really appreciate that, and hopefully in the next videos we will be having some more attention to actually doing work. So fingers crossed that the weather is going to improve and that we can get to a bit more work outside as well, because there's still loads and loads to do. So thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.
Beautiful artwork.
Will you help him? Cat's gonna help. Let's see my artwork. There you go. Electrical plan of dreams.